The 15 richest people of all time. Number 15, Genghis Khan. Lived between 1162 to 1227. Genghis Khan is undoubtedly one of the most successful military leaders of all time. As leader of the Mongol Empire, which at its height stretched from China to Europe, he controlled the largest contiguous empire in history. However, despite his great power, Genghis never hoarded his wealth. On the contrary, the Khan's generosity was key to his influence. One of the bases of his success is sharing the spoils with his soldiers and other commanders. Number 14, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Lived between 1794 to 1877. Net worth $185 billion. Great American entrepreneur and a major philanthropist who made his fortune through the merchant marine with cargo and passenger transport, on the stretches between Manhattan, Albany, and New York. It was also one of the pioneers to invest in railroads during United States industrialization. It is estimated that he managed to accumulate $185 billion until his death in 1877, at the age of 82. Number 13, Alan Rufus. Lived between 1040 to 1093. Net worth $194 billion. The nephew of William the Conqueror, Rufus joined his uncle in the Norman Conquest. Number 12, Henry Ford. Lived between 1863 to 1947. Net worth $199 billion. American businessman and founder of the famous Ford Motor Company, Henry dictated a vision that changed the history of industrialization. He attributed the Fordism concept to the world, which consists of producing large quantities at a low cost through an assembly line. Number 11, Muammar Gaddafi. Lived between 1942 to 2011. Net worth $200 billion. The former Libyan colonel and dictator, he had exercised uncontested control over the largest oil reserves in Africa for the past 41 years, where his investments helped his bank accounts to mount like crazy. At the time of his death, the personal fortune of Gaddafi was estimated at the equivalent of about $200 billion in different banks around the world, and in oil investments in the country. Number 10, William the Conqueror. Lived between 1027 to 1087. Net worth $229.7 billion. Famous for invading and conquering England, taking land and treasure from Sussex to Yorkshire, and defeating Earl Harold Godwin's son at the Battle of Hastings in 1066, where he became King William I. And it didn't stop there. The more kingdoms he conquers, the more he acquires wealth, and that's what he had done in his whole life. Number 9, Mir Osman Ali Khan. Lived between 1886 to 1967. Net worth $230 billion. Mir Osman Ali Khan reportedly owned 50 Rolls-Royces and used the diamond as a paperweight in his office. He is also known as the Nizam of Hyderabad. He had a personal gold collection that was worth over 100 million and owned over 400 million worth of jewelry, including the famous Jacob diamond, which is worth 95 million today. Number 8, Nikolai Alexandrovich Romanov. Lived between 1868 to 1918. Net worth $300 billion. Nicholas II, the last Emperor of Russia and King of Poland and Grand Duke of Finland. He ruled the Russian Empire from 1894 to 1917, when Bolshevik revolutionaries overthrew and murdered him and his family. Number 7, John D. Rockefeller. Lived between 1839 to 1937. Net worth $341 billion. The creation of the Standard Oil Company, the largest oil company in the United States. During that time he owned 90% of all the oil. Rockefeller was valued at about $1.5 billion based on a 1918 federal income tax return, and estimates of his overall fortune the equivalent of almost 2% of U.S. economic output that year. Number 6, Andrew Carnegie. Lived between 1835 to 1919. Net worth $372 billion. Andrew Carnegie left the oil industry to Rockefeller and focused on the steel industry with the Carnegie Steel Company. His fortune is estimated at $372 billion at the time. With his wealth, he built over 1,600 public libraries in the United States. In his eyes, it was important to invest in knowledge, and he also injected tens of millions of dollars into American education. Number 5, Joseph Stalin. Lived between 1878 to 1953. Complete control of a nation with 9.6% of global GDP. A dictator with absolute power who also controlled one of the largest economies in the world. While it is virtually impossible to separate Stalin's wealth from the wealth of the Soviet Union, his unique combination of economic might and complete control of the USSR lead multiple economists to nominate him as one of the richest people of all time. Number 4. Akbar I lived between 1542 to 1605. Net worth ruled empire with 25% of global GDP. His territory was approximately at the level of present-day India and accounted for 25% of the world's GDP. The Mughals used the Mansabdar system. That is, territories over which an officer is appointed to raise income from the land. And moreover, Akbar's net worth is incalculable. Number 3. Emperor Shenzong lived between 1048 to 1085 in China. Ruled empire with 25% to 30% of global GDP. China's Song dynasty was one of the most economically powerful empires of all time. Song dynasty's government was highly centralized, meaning the emperor held enormous control over the economy. Number 2. Augustus Caesar lived between 63 BC to AD 14 in Roman Empire. Net worth 4.6 trillion. Augustus reigned over the Roman Empire from 27 BC to AD 14, after the death of his father Julius Caesar, including Egypt. He was one of the most successful leaders who led the transformation of Rome from a republic to an empire. He is the man behind the Pax Romana, and was able to seize the power of a kingdom which also accounted for around 25 to 30% of the world's GDP at the time. Number 1. Mansa Musa lived between 1280 to 1337 in Mali Empire. Net worth is incalculable. Mansa Musa, who ruled the Malian Empire, lived from 1280 to 1337, considered the richest man of all time. Indeed, he knew how to conquer Timbuktu and extend his empire to Niger and therefore the most important trade routes of the trans-Saharan trade. He lived from 1280 to 1337 and is considered the king of Timbuktu, because of his influence on the city's commerce and culture. He also owned the Bambuk gold mines, which account for more than 50% of world supply today. Its territory produced half of the world's gold stock. So it is not hard to believe that his wealth cannot be expressed in any currency. During his pilgrimage to Mecca, he took 60,000 people with him, each carrying nearly 2 kilograms of gold, and dozens of camels, weighing around 125 kilograms each, to distribute the fortune to the poor and mosques along the way. These are the 15 richest of all time.